In the dense jungles of Vietnam, hidden beneath layers of earth and shadow, a secret and deadly battleground existed, one that few outside the war zone ever witnessed. Between 1965 and 1972, during the height of the Vietnam War, a group of highly trained and incredibly brave soldiers faced one of the most dangerous missions imaginable. These were the tunnel rats American and Australian soldiers who voluntarily entered the dark, claustrophobic and trap-filled tunnels dug by the Viet Cong. Their mission was not just perilous, it was vital to the war effort. Imagine crawling through narrow passages barely wide enough to fit your body, with nothing but a small flashlight, a pistol, and your own wits to keep you alive. The walls around you could be lined with deadly traps, venomous snakes, or enemy fighters lying in wait. Every inch forward was a fight against fear, the unknown, and the very real possibility of death. These tunnel systems were the Viet Cong's secret weapon, allowing them to move undetected, launch surprise attacks, and evade capture. But the tunnel rats, with unmatched courage and determination, took on this hidden enemy beneath the earth, turning the tide in many critical moments. Their stories are ones of bravery, sacrifice, and sheer human endurance. Despite facing unimaginable horrors underground, these soldiers pressed on, knowing the lives of their comrades and the outcome of battles depended on their success. They are unsung heroes, whose efforts often go unnoticed, but whose impact shaped the course of the war. If you want to uncover the incredible world of the tunnel rats, hear their stories, and understand the true cost of this underground warfare, you have come to the right place. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss out on this journey into one of the most gripping and lesser-known chapters of history. Join us as we descend into the darkness and bring to light the remarkable courage of those who dared to face the unspeakable. Beneath the thick canopy of Vietnam's dense jungles lay a hidden world, an underground labyrinth crafted with painstaking care and fierce determination by the Viet Cong. These were no ordinary tunnels. They were the lifeblood of a guerrilla army fighting against overwhelming odds, dug entirely by hand, often with rudimentary tools. This vast network stretched for hundreds of miles, winding through the soil like the veins of the land itself. It was here, beneath the surface, that entire communities lived, fought, and endured, shielded from the relentless bombardments and patrols that dominated the war above ground. The tunnels were ingeniously designed to serve multiple purposes, reflecting the resourcefulness and resilience of those who built them. In these confined underground chambers, the Viet Cong established living quarters where soldiers and families could sleep, eat, and plan their next moves without fear of detection. Storage rooms were filled with hidden caches of weapons, ammunition, and supplies that were vital to sustaining prolonged engagements. Makeshift hospitals provided crucial medical care, where wounded fighters received treatment under the most challenging conditions imaginable, often using limited supplies and relying on sheer willpower to survive. But what made these tunnels truly formidable was their ability to enable stealthy movement and surprise attacks. The narrow, twisting passages were intentionally constructed to be just large enough for a single person to crawl through, making it nearly impossible for larger American soldiers to follow. Their complex design included multiple levels, hidden entrances disguised as natural features, and deadly traps meant to deter or eliminate intruders. Some tunnels contained ventilation shafts cleverly concealed to circulate fresh air, while others were rigged with punji stakes, sharp bamboo spikes hidden beneath loose flooring and tripwires, connected to explosive devices that could be triggered by the slightest disturbance. The Viet Cong's mastery of this underground environment gave them an unparalleled strategic advantage. From these tunnels, they could launch sudden ambushes against enemy forces, vanish without a trace, and then reappear miles away to strike again. This cat-and-mouse game frustrated and demoralized many soldiers on the surface, who often felt as if they were fighting ghosts. The tunnels allowed the Viet Cong to maintain a constant presence despite the heavy firepower and technological superiority of their adversaries. For the American and Australian soldiers who became known as tunnel rats, Understanding and overcoming this underground fortress was their mission and their nightmare. The sheer scale and complexity of the tunnel system demanded specialized skills and an unyielding spirit. Every inch explored was a step into the unknown, where danger lurked in every shadow and silence could be shattered by a sudden attack or the snap of a deadly trap. These soldiers faced more than just the physical challenge of maneuvering through claustrophobic spaces. They confronted a psychological battlefield that tested their mental limits. The darkness was absolute, the air thick with the smell of earth and decay, and the silence broken only by distant sounds that might signal lurking enemies. The constant threat of ambush or injury from hidden traps meant that every movement had to be calculated and cautious. But time was often a luxury they did not have. The tunnel rats learned to rely on instincts sharpened by rigorous training and experience, knowing that hesitation could be fatal. Despite the horrors, the tunnel system also revealed the incredible human capacity for survival and adaptation. Within those earthen walls, the Viet Cong created not just a military stronghold, but a community that endured hardship with remarkable fortitude. Their ability to live underground for extended periods, to cultivate a hidden existence away from the devastation of the surface war, speaks volumes about their determination and ingenuity. As we delve deeper into the story of the tunnels and those who entered them, it becomes clear that this underground world was much more than just a physical space. It was a symbol of resistance, a testament to the will of a people fighting for their homeland. The tunnels challenged not only the soldiers who crawled through them, but also the conventional ideas of warfare, pushing the boundaries of what combat meant in a conflict that was as much about survival and psychological endurance as it was about firepower. The legacy of these tunnels and the brave men who navigated them continues to resonate today. They remind us that war is not always fought in open fields or on front lines, but often in shadows and silence, where courage takes on many forms and survival depends on both mind and body. The story of the Viet Cong tunnels is a powerful chapter in the history of the Vietnam War I that highlights the extraordinary lengths to which people will go in pursuit of their cause and the profound impact of human ingenuity in even the darkest of places. The moment a tunnel rat descended into the dark, narrow passages of the Viet Cong's underground labyrinth, a world of danger closed in from all sides, a realm where every sound, every shadow, and every movement could mean the difference between life and death. These tunnels, though crafted to serve as shelters and strategic pathways for the Viet Cong, transformed into nightmarish gauntlets for those tasked with hunting them down. The hazards they faced were relentless, testing not only their physical endurance, but also their mental fortitude in ways few could imagine. The tunnels themselves were an enemy, claustrophobic, winding, and unforgiving. Barely large enough to allow a soldier to crawl through, the cramped spaces amplified the sense of vulnerability. The walls, made of packed earth, felt like they could close in at any moment, cutting off any chance of escape or retreat. Darkness was absolute, swallowing every flicker of light from the soldier's tiny flashlight, and the stale, humid air made breathing laborious. Each breath carried the scent of damp soil, decay, and the unmistakable tension of a place where violence was never far away. But the physical constraints were only the beginning. Lurking within these passages were deadly booby-traps, set with ruthless precision to catch the unprepared or the careless. Punji sticks, sharp bamboo spikes concealed beneath loose soil or camouflaged leaves, waited silently to impale anyone unlucky enough to trigger them. Tripwires connected to concealed explosives or swinging logs could be triggered with the slightest disturbance, turning a crawl through the tunnel into a deadly gamble. The ingenuity of these traps was as terrifying as their lethality, forcing tunnel rats to move with painstaking caution, feeling every inch of the ground and watching every inch of the walls as if they might leap to life. Venomous snakes, native to the dense jungles of Vietnam, also made the tunnels their home. It was not uncommon for tunnel rats to encounter coiled vipers or deadly cobras in the tight confines, their sudden appearance often catching soldiers off guard. The risk of a venomous bite was constant, compounded by the lack of immediate medical support deep underground. The tunnels were also infested with other dangerous creatures, scorpions, spiders, and biting insects that added another layer of discomfort and threat. The constant presence of these creatures meant that survival required not just bravery, but a deep understanding and respect for the hostile environment. The greatest danger, however, came not from traps or animals, but from the enemy soldiers themselves. Viet Cong fighters, intimately familiar with the tunnels they had built, used the darkness and complexity of the maze to their advantage. They could lie in wait, silently stalking intruders, ready to strike with knives, pistols, or homemade weapons. In the pitch-black tunnels, sound was both a warning and a risk. The click of a weapon, a whispered breath, or even the faintest movement could give away one's position. Tunnel rats often found themselves in close-quarters combat, grappling with unseen foes in spaces so narrow that there was no room to raise a weapon or dodge a blow. The enemy was invisible, yet dangerously close, and every encounter carried the weight of uncertainty and terror. Navigating these perils required more than just physical skill. Tunnel rats needed sharp instincts and nerves of steel. The psychological toll was immense. The oppressive darkness, the unrelenting fear of traps or ambush, and the suffocating tightness of the tunnels pressed heavily on their minds. Some soldiers reported moments where the weight of panic threatened to overwhelm them, where the line between courage and fear blurred in the suffocating blackness. Yet, despite these fears, tunnel rats persevered, driven by a deep sense of duty and the knowledge that their work was crucial to saving lives on the surface. Every mission into the tunnels was a test of human limits. The soldiers had to balance speed with caution, aggression with patience, and above all, maintain focus amid chaos. The slightest misstep could trigger a trap or alert hidden enemies. Their success often depended on reading the subtle signs in the environment, a disturbed patch of earth, a faint odor, or an unusual silence. Each journey was a perilous dance with death, where the stakes could not have been higher. The stories from the tunnels are filled with moments of harrowing close calls and fierce battles fought in total darkness. One soldier might narrowly avoid impalement on a punji stick, while another might wrestle with a Viet Cong fighter mere inches away from exploding charges. These experiences forged a brotherhood among tunnel rats, a shared understanding of the terror and resolve needed to survive. Their courage was not the loud heroism often celebrated in war, but a quiet, persistent bravery that sustained them in the face of unimaginable odds. Beyond the immediate dangers, the tunnels tested the limits of human endurance. The physical strain of crawling for hours in suffocating conditions left many exhausted and injured. The risk of infection from cuts, bites, and exposure to unsanitary conditions was high, with medical evacuation often impossible until the soldier emerged back on the surface. Yet these men continued to enter the tunnels again and again, knowing that the cost of failure could be catastrophic for their comrades. In the end, the hazards faced by tunnel rats were a grim reminder of the harsh realities of warfare beneath the jungle floor. Their battles were fought not with the thunder of artillery or the roar of aircraft, but in silence, in darkness, against enemies both seen and unseen. Through their courage and sacrifice, they disrupted a hidden enemy network that might otherwise have caused even greater devastation. Their story stands as a testament to human resilience and the extraordinary bravery it takes to face fear itself in the most unforgiving of environments. Deep within the oppressive darkness of the Viet Cong tunnels, where danger lurked around every bend and the air was thick with tension, the tunnel rats faced their most daunting challenge armed with little more than the bare essentials. Unlike the heavily equipped soldiers who fought above ground, these brave men entered the underground labyrinths with only the simplest tools, a small flashlight, a trusty pistol, and a sharp knife. This minimal gear was all they had to rely on as they navigated twisting passages filled with deadly traps, venomous creatures, and enemy combatants prepared to strike from the shadows. The stark contrast between their limited equipment and the threats they faced reveals the extraordinary courage and resourcefulness that defined their role in the Vietnam War. The flashlight was the tunnel rat's lifeline in the pitch-black tunnels, a narrow beam of light piercing the impenetrable darkness. Its glow revealed the contours of the tunnel walls, the glint of tripwires, and the faint outlines of hidden entrances. Yet, this light was a double-edged sword. While it was essential for survival, it also risked giving away their position to waiting enemies. Soldiers quickly learned to use it sparingly and strategically, sometimes relying on their other senses and memory to move silently and cautiously through the maze. The flashlight's faint glow was often the only thing separating them from total disorientation and the possibility of becoming hopelessly lost beneath the earth. Alongside the flashlight, the pistol was their primary means of defense. It was compact and versatile, suitable for the tight confines of the tunnels, where wielding a larger weapon was impossible. However, the pistol had its limitations, particularly in close-quarters combat, where stealth and surprise were crucial. Tunnel rats had to be precise and quick, often engaging enemies in hand-to-hand combat, after surprising them in the darkness. The pistol was not just a weapon, but a tool of last resort, a guardian against the sudden violence that could erupt within inches of their face. Many soldiers carried additional knives or bayonets, using these as vital close combat weapons in the cramped spaces where guns could be cumbersome or impractical. The knife, sharp and reliable, was an extension of the tunnel rat's will to survive. It was indispensable not only for combat, but also for practical tasks, like cutting through roots or ropes, disabling traps, and even as a last resort for escape. In many cases, a soldier's knife was the difference between life and death, especially when ammunition ran low or silent kills were necessary. To avoid alerting enemy forces deeper within the tunnels, this simple tool symbolized the tunnel rat's reliance on skill, quick thinking, and intimate knowledge of their environment, rather than overwhelming firepower. Despite the apparent lack of advanced technology or heavy weaponry, tunnel rats displayed a remarkable ability to adapt and innovate. Their success depended largely on their training, sharp instincts, and courage. They learned to move with the utmost caution, feeling the ground and walls for signs of traps or disturbances. The limited gear forced them to depend on their senses beyond sight, listening carefully for the faintest sounds, smelling the air for hints of danger, and maintaining a mental map of the tunnel's twists and turns. Their resourcefulness often meant improvising with whatever was available, using found objects or environmental features to outsmart the enemy or protect themselves. Their light equipment and minimal armor also meant that tunnel rats were vulnerable in ways conventional soldiers were not. They could not rely on heavy body armor or backup weapons, and often had to depend on stealth, speed, and quick reflexes to survive. The weight of this responsibility, combined with the physical and psychological strain of the environment, demanded an extraordinary mental toughness. Each mission required not only physical endurance, but also an unwavering determination to face fear head-on, knowing that a single mistake could be fatal. In many ways, the tunnel rat's limited equipment reflects a broader theme of the Vietnam War, unconventional warfare, where adaptability and courage often outweighed sheer firepower. Their role was a testament to human grit, proving that sometimes the smallest tools wielded by the bravest hearts can confront the deadliest threats. The tunnel rats did not fight with overwhelming force. They fought with precision, patience, and an intimate understanding of their deadly environment. Their stories are filled with moments where ingenuity and courage triumphed over danger. They found ways to navigate complex traps, disable enemy devices, and extract valuable intelligence that shaped larger military operations. The limited gear they carried never limited their impact. Instead, it highlighted their extraordinary ability to overcome adversity with nothing but sheer will and determination. This minimal equipment also created a unique bond among tunnel rats. They shared a camaraderie forged in darkness and danger. Understanding the immense challenges each faced with so little support, their shared experience of crawling into the unknown, armed with only the essentials, created a brotherhood of resilience and bravery that endured long after the war ended. As we reflect on the story of the tunnel rats, their limited equipment serves as a powerful symbol of their sacrifice and courage. It reminds us that heroism often comes in the form of quiet determination, the willingness to face unimaginable risks with only the barest tools, and the strength to adapt when conventional methods fail. These men ventured into the earth armed with nothing but a flashlight, a pistol, and a knife. Yet their actions resonated through history, illuminating a dark chapter with acts of extraordinary bravery and unwavering resolve. Beneath the thick jungle canopy and miles away from the battles raging above, the tunnel rats confronted an enemy far more silent and insidious than any they had faced on the surface. It was not just the physical dangers that made their mission so harrowing. It was the profound psychological toll exacted by the darkness, confinement, and ever-present fear that defined their world underground. The tunnels were not merely a battlefield of bullets and traps. They were a crucible that tested the mental resilience of every soldier who dared enter. Imagine being swallowed whole by complete darkness, the narrow earthen walls pressing in on all sides, a suffocating silence punctuated only by the faintest sounds that could signal imminent danger or death. The tunnel rats knew that any noise, any misstep, could trigger a trap or alert an enemy waiting in the shadows. The oppressive blackness did not just obscure vision, it magnified fear. Without natural light or any sense of direction, the mind could easily spiral into panic, imagining threats lurking around every bend. This darkness became a psychological adversary, as formidable as any armed foe. The claustrophobic spaces left no room to breathe freely, let alone move comfortably. Crawling through cramped, twisting tunnels for hours on end drained not only the body, but also the spirit. The relentless confinement amplified feelings of helplessness and vulnerability, making it difficult for even the strongest men to keep their nerves steady. Many tunnel rats later recounted moments where they felt overwhelmed by the sensation of being trapped underground with no escape, a feeling intensified by the knowledge that death could come from any direction without warning. This extreme environment forced soldiers to confront primal fears head-on: the fear of darkness, the fear of being trapped, and the fear of unseen enemies combined to create a psychological pressure cooker. Some describe the tunnels as a place where time seemed to distort, where seconds stretched into minutes, and every breath felt heavy with dread. The mental exhaustion was often as debilitating as any physical wound, eroding focus and testing the limits of endurance. Yet despite this, the tunnel rats pressed forward, their courage fueled by a commitment to their mission and the lives depending on them. The psychological strain was compounded by the ever-present risk of sudden violence. Every step could trigger a deadly trap. Every sound might signal an enemy's presence. The unpredictability bred constant hypervigilance, forcing soldiers into a state of heightened alert that was exhausting to maintain. The mind oscillated between sharp focus and the creeping onset of fear-driven paralysis, a dangerous balance that required tremendous self-control to master. Tunnel rats learned to harness their anxiety, channeling it into heightened awareness rather than allowing it to consume them. Moreover, the nature of underground combat meant that encounters with the enemy were terrifyingly intimate. There was no room for ranged combat or strategic retreat. Instead, fights were often hand-to-hand, fought in pitch darkness with weapons barely visible and senses strained to their limits. The sudden violent clashes left deep psychological scars, with memories that haunted many soldiers long after they emerged into the light. The trauma of facing death in such close quarters, combined with the isolation of the tunnels, contributed to lasting mental health challenges for many veterans. Isolation itself was another crushing burden. While soldiers above ground could rely on the presence and support of their comrades, tunnel rats often moved alone or in pairs through the twisting maze. The silence could be deafening, broken only by distant echoes or the pounding of one's own heartbeat. This solitude deepened feelings of loneliness and fear, making the mental battle as daunting as the physical one. The sense of being cut off from the world above and engulfed by the earth itself left a lasting impression on those who survived. Yet amid this psychological storm, the tunnel rats demonstrated remarkable resilience. Many developed coping mechanisms to withstand the intense mental pressure, from focusing on breathing and small tasks to relying on training that emphasized discipline and mental toughness. Brotherhood and shared experience also played a vital role, as returning soldiers found strength in the knowledge that others had endured the same fears and survived. Their stories reveal not just tales of terror, but also of incredible human strength and perseverance. The psychological impact of this underground warfare extended beyond the tunnels themselves. Many tunnel rats returned home carrying invisible wounds, anxiety, nightmares, and lingering trauma that affected their daily lives and relationships. The horrors they faced in darkness often followed them into the light, challenging them to reconcile their experiences with the world around them. For some, the mental scars proved as lasting and debilitating as any physical injury sustained in combat. Understanding the psychological toll of the tunnel rats deepens our appreciation for their bravery. They did not simply face physical dangers. They confronted the darkest fears of the human mind, navigating a hostile environment designed to break spirit as much as body. Their courage was not only in facing external enemies, but in mastering the terror within the fear of suffocation, the fear of invisibility, and the fear of dying alone in the silence of the earth. Their experience offers powerful lessons about the unseen costs of war and the extraordinary mental strength required to endure it. The tunnels may have been underground, but the battles fought within them touched the deepest parts of the human psyche. As we remember the tunnel rats, we honor not just their heroic actions, but their profound resilience in the face of overwhelming psychological adversity, a testament to the enduring human spirit, even in the darkest of places. Beneath the dense jungles of Vietnam, far from the battles waged in open fields and firing lines, the tunnel rats carried out a mission that was as crucial as it was perilous. While their physical surroundings were unforgiving, it was their strategic impact that truly made their role indispensable to the war effort. These men, armed with little more than courage, a flashlight, and basic weapons, were tasked with gathering intelligence, mapping the vast and intricate tunnel networks, and dismantling the very lifelines that sustained the Viet Cong's guerrilla warfare. Their work beneath the earth was a hidden front in the larger conflict, one that shaped the course of battles and saved countless lives above ground. The tunnel systems dug by the Viet Cong were more than mere hiding places. They were sophisticated, sprawling underground cities that allowed enemy forces to move undetected, store weapons and supplies, and launch surprise attacks. Understanding and disrupting this secret world was vital to countering the Viet Cong's effectiveness. Tunnel rats became the eyes and ears beneath the surface, crawling through claustrophobic passages to uncover what lay hidden from conventional military reconnaissance. Their intelligence gathering was painstaking and fraught with danger, but it provided commanders with invaluable insights into enemy operations, supply routes, and troop movements that could not be obtained any other way. Mapping the tunnels was one of the tunnel rats' most critical tasks. The Viet Cong tunnels were labyrinthine, with multiple levels, hidden entrances, and deadly traps designed to confuse and kill intruders. Without accurate maps, larger forces could easily become lost, ambushed, or fall victim to traps. Tunnel rats carefully documented the layout of the passages they explored, noting the locations of key rooms such as armories, living quarters, and field hospitals. This information allowed Allied forces to plan more effective assaults, avoid hazards, and systematically dismantle the tunnel networks. Their efforts transformed the tunnels from unknown threats into manageable targets, gradually stripping the Viet Cong of their underground advantage. Destroying enemy supply routes hidden within these tunnels was another vital contribution. The Viet Cong relied heavily on these subterranean corridors to transport weapons, ammunition, food, and medical supplies, often bypassing heavily guarded roads and checkpoints. By infiltrating the tunnels, tunnel rats could locate and neutralize these stockpiles, disrupting the enemy's ability to sustain prolonged combat. They planted explosives to collapse tunnels or destroy caches, significantly hindering the Viet Cong's mobility and operational capacity. This sabotage not only weakened enemy forces but also protected Allied soldiers from surprise attacks fueled by fresh supplies or reinforcements. The tunnel rats' intelligence work extended beyond physical mapping and destruction. They gathered information about enemy tactics, leadership, and morale by capturing or interrogating prisoners found within the tunnels. Their close-quarters encounters often yielded critical insights that informed broader military strategy. By identifying the strength and disposition of enemy units hidden underground, tunnel rats helped commanders anticipate Viet Cong movements and adjust plans accordingly. Their role was a blend of reconnaissance, combat, and espionage, all conducted in some of the most hostile conditions imaginable. The impact of the tunnel rats was felt throughout the Vietnam War. Their bravery and effectiveness in the underground warfare arena forced the Viet Cong to adapt and expend significant resources on tunnel defense and repair. This constant pressure gradually eroded the strategic advantage that the tunnels once provided. The intelligence they brought to light helped to thwart ambushes, prevent surprise attacks, and secure key regions of the battlefield. In many ways, their contributions saved lives by preempting deadly encounters and enabling more precise military actions. Yet, despite their vital role, the tunnel rats' work often went unrecognized or misunderstood. Their missions were hidden from public view, and the nature of their work was so secretive and dangerous that few outside their ranks fully grasped the magnitude of their sacrifices. The tunnels were a shadow battlefield, where ordinary soldiers displayed extraordinary valor, battling not just an enemy but the very environment itself. Their strategic contributions shaped the outcome of countless engagements, demonstrating how intelligence and unconventional warfare could turn the tide in a conflict dominated by guerrilla tactics. The legacy of the tunnel rats endures not only in military history, but also as a testament to human ingenuity and courage under pressure. They operated at the intersection of danger and discovery, transforming fear and uncertainty into actionable knowledge. Their maps and reports became vital tools that informed decisions at the highest levels of command. Their efforts highlight the critical importance of adaptability and intelligence gathering in warfare, showing how small teams in the most unlikely places can influence vast campaigns. As we reflect on the tunnel rats' strategic impact, it becomes clear that their story is one of quiet heroism and relentless determination. In the darkness beneath the jungle, these soldiers faced overwhelming odds to illuminate the hidden paths of the enemy and strike at their most vulnerable points. Their courage changed the nature of the war, underground and above, underscoring that in the complex theater of Vietnam, victory was often won not just by firepower, but by the tenacity and skill of those who dared to enter the unknown. Beneath the dense jungles and hidden deep within the earth, the tunnel rats waged a battle that few outside their ranks ever truly understood, and for many years, their stories remained largely untold and their sacrifices unrecognized. These men, who crawled through claustrophobic, deadly tunnels, armed with only the most basic equipment and an extraordinary amount of courage, played a pivotal role in one of the most challenging and complex aspects of the Vietnam War. Yet, despite the immense risks they faced and the strategic impact of their missions, the broader public and even many within the military often overlooked their contributions, leaving a shadow over their legacy that lasted long after the war had ended. The nature of the tunnel rats' work was inherently secretive and isolated. Operating in the underground maze required stealth and silence, qualities that did not lend themselves well to public recognition or celebration. Unlike large-scale battles that could be broadcast or reported, the tunnel rats' exploits took place in darkness, far from the eyes of the media and the general public. Their successes were measured in intelligence gathered, tunnels destroyed, and lives saved, rather than in grand displays of combat. This invisibility contributed to a sense of anonymity that followed many tunnel rats back home, where their stories were difficult to explain and often met with silence or misunderstanding. For the veterans themselves, the lack of recognition was compounded by the psychological and physical scars they carried from their time underground. Many returned home burdened by trauma, injuries, and memories of terrifying close encounters with death. The secretive and stigmatized nature of their work made it even harder to share their experiences, and their unique challenges were often overshadowed by the larger narrative of the Vietnam War. This silence left many feeling isolated not only from society but also from their fellow veterans who had fought above ground in more conventional combat roles. Despite these challenges, the tunnel rats formed a tight-knit brotherhood, bound together by the shared understanding of what it meant to face the darkness and danger beneath the jungle floor. Their camaraderie and mutual respect were sources of strength during and after the war. Over time, many tunnel rats began to tell their stories through books, interviews, and reunions, shedding light on the extreme conditions they endured and the bravery required to carry out their missions. These personal accounts slowly brought recognition to a group of soldiers who had long been the unsung heroes of the conflict. Public awareness of the tunnel rats grew gradually, helped by the publication of memoirs, documentaries, and historical research that detailed their unique role in the war. Films and books began to explore the psychological toll, the tactical importance, and the sheer danger of their work, painting a fuller picture of their contribution. This growing attention helped to correct the historical record, acknowledging the vital part tunnel rats played in undermining the Viet Cong's underground operations and supporting the broader war effort. Recognition was not only about honoring bravery, but also about understanding the human cost of this secret war beneath the surface. Many tunnel rats suffered long-term health problems, including injuries sustained during their missions, and mental health challenges, such as post-traumatic stress disorder. The slow public acknowledgement of their service helped to foster support, networks, and resources aimed at assisting these veterans, many of whom had struggled in silence for decades. The legacy of the tunnel rats also serves as a reminder of the complexities and nuances of warfare, particularly in unconventional conflicts like the Vietnam War. Their story challenges simplistic narratives of heroism and battle, revealing a more complicated reality, where courage often meant confronting not only an enemy, but also fear, isolation, and the unknown. It highlights the importance of recognizing all forms of military service, especially those that occur in the shadows or beyond the reach of mainstream attention. Today, the tunnel rats are remembered not just as soldiers, but as symbols of extraordinary resilience and sacrifice. Their experiences have contributed to military training and tactics, informing how modern forces prepare for subterranean warfare and counterinsurgency operations. Their story enriches our understanding of the Vietnam War and honors the bravery of those who faced unimaginable dangers far from the public eye. As their tales continue to be shared and preserved, the tunnel rats finally receive the recognition they deserve. Their legacy is one of quiet heroism, a testament to the power of courage in the face of overwhelming odds, and a lasting tribute to the men who fought the war beneath the war, often forgotten, but never truly gone. As we delve deeper into the hidden world of the tunnel rats, it is impossible to fully grasp their story without understanding the broader tapestry of the Vietnam War, a conflict marked not only by brutal jungle fighting and subterranean battles, but also by far-reaching strategies, devastating consequences, and pivotal moments that shaped history. The tunnel rats operated within a complex war environment where multiple elements intertwined, creating a multifaceted struggle that extended far beyond the confines of the underground tunnels. To appreciate the full scope of their courage and sacrifice, we must explore how the underground war connects with larger themes, such as the lifeline of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, the widespread devastation caused by Agent Orange, and the profound psychological impact of the Tet Offensive. The Ho Chi Minh Trail was a vital artery coursing through dense jungles and rugged mountains, stretching across Laos and Cambodia into South Vietnam. This extensive network of paths, roads, and tunnels was the lifeblood of the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong forces, allowing them to move troops, weapons, and supplies with remarkable stealth despite relentless U.S. efforts to disrupt it. While the tunnel rats fought in claustrophobic, dark passages beneath the jungle floor, the Ho Chi Minh Trail represented a sprawling, strategic battlefield above ground, essential for sustaining the enemy's guerrilla warfare. The trail's existence underscored the tenacity and ingenuity of the North Vietnamese, who overcame environmental challenges like monsoons, rough terrain, and constant aerial bombardment to keep their supply lines open. In this way, the tunnel rats and the broader war effort intersected, both facing hidden dangers, whether in narrow tunnels or dense jungle pathways, in a relentless struggle to outmaneuver the other side. Amid this harsh landscape of conflict, the use of Agent Orange introduced a devastating chemical dimension to the war. The U.S. military sprayed millions of gallons of this powerful herbicide to defoliate forests, destroy crops, and deny the enemy cover. Yet, the consequences went far beyond military strategy. Agent Orange's toxic dioxin contaminated vast swaths of land, turning once fertile fields into barren wastelands and inflicting long-lasting harm on the Vietnamese people and as an environment. The chemical exposure caused severe health problems, including cancers, birth defects, and chronic illnesses that continue to affect generations. Many American veterans, including some tunnel rats who served in the most hazardous conditions, also suffered the lingering effects of this toxin. The legacy of Agent Orange remains a tragic reminder of how warfare's unseen weapons can leave scars, not only on the battlefield, but on humanity itself, intertwining with the physical and psychological wounds carried by those who fought. Then came the Tet Offensive, a defining moment in the Vietnam War that sent shockwaves through both the battlefield and the hearts and minds of people around the world. Launched during the Lunar New Year holiday in 1968, the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong forces coordinated massive surprise attacks on cities and military installations across South Vietnam. The scale and audacity of the offensive stunned the American public and military leadership alike. While the Tet Offensive did not achieve all its military objectives, it profoundly affected public perception, exposing the harsh realities of the war and challenging optimistic official reports. For the tunnel rats, this period was part of a larger, intensified conflict that tested their endurance and resolve. The psychological impact of Tet rippled through every level of the war effort, shaking confidence and fueling anti-war sentiment that would eventually change the course of history. Within this wider context, the tunnel rats' underground battles were a microcosm of the Vietnam War's complexity, a conflict defined by unconventional tactics, deep-rooted resilience, and the human cost of prolonged warfare. Their missions, carried out in darkness and danger, connected directly to broader strategies aimed at weakening the enemy's supply lines, disrupting their operations, and ultimately striving for victory in a war that was as much about hearts and minds as it was about territory and firepower. The intertwining of these elements, the Ho Chi Minh Trail's lifeline, the chemical warfare's tragic consequences, and the psychological upheaval of the Tet Offensive paints a richer, more nuanced picture of the challenges faced by soldiers on all sides. By understanding this interconnected narrative, we gain a deeper appreciation for the tunnel rats' courage and the war's profound impact on individuals, nations, and history itself. Their story is not isolated in the darkness beneath the jungle, but is woven into the broader fabric of a conflict that tested the limits of human endurance and reshaped the world in countless ways. It reminds us that every soldier's experience, no matter how hidden or overlooked, is part of a larger human story marked by sacrifice, struggle, and the enduring quest for peace amid chaos. The Vietnam War holds a unique place in history as the first conflict to be broadcast directly into living rooms around the world, a war fought not only on the ground but also through the powerful lens of television and media. This unprecedented level of media coverage brought the brutal realities of war into sharp focus for the public, shaping perceptions in ways that no previous conflict had. The tunnel rats, operating in their shadowy underground world, were part of a larger war that was unfolding on multiple fronts, not just the physical battlefield, but also in the battle for hearts and minds through media and public opinion. Unlike earlier wars where news was filtered through newspapers and delayed reports, Vietnam's fighting was captured almost in real time by journalists and camera crews. The stark images of combat, suffering, and destruction were broadcast nightly, confronting the American public with scenes that contrasted sharply with official government statements. This immediacy of war coverage brought home the human cost of the conflict, from the dense jungles where soldiers fought to the urban centers caught in the crossfire. It was a conflict where the horrors of war could no longer be abstract or distant. They were vivid, immediate, and unavoidable. This new media landscape profoundly influenced public opinion. As the war dragged on, the growing number of casualties and apparent stalemates eroded initial support. Television reports and photojournalism began to question the official narrative, revealing inconsistencies and exposing tragic events such as civilian casualties and atrocities. The reporting on incidents like the My Lai massacre shocked the nation and ignited moral outrage, forcing many to confront the ethical complexities of the war. The media became a mirror reflecting the grim realities faced by soldiers, including the tunnel rats, who risked their lives in claustrophobic tunnels. Yet their personal stories were often overshadowed by the broader coverage of the conflict. The intense media scrutiny also fueled the rise of a powerful anti-war movement that swept across the United States and beyond. Students, activists, and ordinary citizens, influenced by what they saw on their television screens, began organizing protests and demanding an end to the conflict. College campuses became hotbeds of dissent, where voices calling for peace grew louder and more persistent. The images of soldiers in tunnels, jungles, and war-torn villages helped galvanize this movement by putting a human face on the abstract notion of war. This grassroots opposition exerted increasing pressure on political leaders, contributing to shifts in policy and public discourse. The government's attempts to manage the media narrative often fell short, as reporters on the ground in Vietnam worked to uncover truths and challenge official statements. Investigative journalism flourished, and the release of the Pentagon Papers, a secret government study revealing misleading information about the war, further eroded public trust. The media's role evolved from a tool of propaganda to a watchdog, holding power accountable and shaping the national conversation about the war's legitimacy and morality. For the soldiers fighting in Vietnam, this media environment was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it brought awareness to their sacrifices and struggles. On the other, it sometimes led to feelings of frustration and alienation, as public opinion turned against the war effort. Tunnel rats, in particular, carried heavy burdens, both physical and psychological, that were rarely understood by the broader public. Their covert, dangerous missions remained largely hidden amidst the flood of news about larger battles and political debates, underscoring the complex and often disconnected nature of war reporting. The televised Vietnam War also marked a turning point in how conflicts would be covered in the future. It demonstrated the profound influence media can have on shaping public opinion and policy, a lesson that has echoed in every conflict since. The power of images and stories to sway hearts and minds became undeniable, highlighting the importance of transparent and responsible journalism in times of war. Ultimately, the media's role in the Vietnam War underscores the interconnectedness of battlefield realities and public perception. The tunnel rats' brave missions underground were part of a conflict whose outcome was influenced as much by the stories told on television screens as by the actions taken on the ground. Their experiences remind us that behind every headline and news report are individuals facing unimaginable challenges, whose courage and sacrifice form the true human story of war. As we come to the close of this journey into one of the most harrowing and courageous chapters of the Vietnam War, the story of the tunnel rats and the wider conflict, it is important to reflect on the profound human cost and lasting aftermath that shaped not only the lives of those who fought, but also the course of history itself. The Vietnam War left deep and lasting scars on veterans, on the Vietnamese people, and on the global stage, reminding us all of the true price of conflict and the urgent need to strive for peace. For the veterans who served in Vietnam, including the tunnel rats who faced unimaginable dangers underground, the war was a crucible that tested their courage, resilience, and humanity. Many returned home bearing physical wounds, psychological trauma, and a sense of isolation. The secretive nature of their missions often meant their experiences were not fully understood or appreciated by the public or even fellow soldiers. Post-traumatic stress disorder, injuries, and the haunting memories of combat became daily battles for countless veterans, challenging their ability to reintegrate into civilian life. Their sacrifices, though sometimes overlooked, laid the groundwork for greater awareness of veterans' needs and the development of support systems to help heal invisible wounds. The Vietnamese people endured devastating losses as well. The war ravaged the land, destroyed villages, and uprooted millions from their homes. Agent Orange's toxic legacy left fertile soil barren and inflicted lasting health problems on generations, a cruel reminder of how warfare can poison both land and lives. Families were torn apart, communities shattered, and the process of recovery would take decades. Yet, amid the ruins, Vietnam has emerged resilient, rebuilding and growing into a nation marked by strength and renewal. Their story is one of survival and hope, an enduring testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome even the darkest chapters of history. Internationally, the Vietnam War reshaped politics and diplomacy in profound ways. It challenged traditional notions of warfare and intervention, raising questions about the limits of military power and the complexities of fighting unconventional enemies. The war's impact influenced how future conflicts were approached, with lessons about the importance of understanding cultural contexts, the role of media, and the power of public opinion. The global anti-war movement that emerged highlighted the growing demand for peace and respect for human rights, shaping the political landscape for decades to come. As we reflect on these lessons, the story of the tunnel rats stands as a powerful symbol of courage amid chaos and the often unseen struggles that define warfare. Their journey beneath the jungle floor reminds us that every conflict is composed of countless individual acts of bravery and sacrifice, each carrying weight beyond the battlefield. Their legacy encourages us to remember not only the horrors of war, but also the strength, resilience, and hope that persist in its aftermath. Thank you for joining me in exploring this remarkable story of the Vietnam War and the tunnel rats who faced darkness, both literal and figurative. If you found this video insightful, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who appreciate the lessons history teaches us. Your support helps keep these important stories alive and honors the sacrifices of those who served. Wishing you all a peaceful and restful night. Sleep well and take care.